video after the fact. So if you don't watch it, but you want to watch it, you can just watch the whole thing all the way through, because these are easier for me to do live versus like filming. I also don't have my phone plugged in for this because I'm trying to film in a new location, which is on top of my piano. So I filmed some book reviews, like 7 or 8 book reviews last night from this location, and I think it looked fine. So we're gonna try that. Also, so I have like a 2-level house, and the upstairs gets so hot because I don't have air conditioning. But the downstairs typically stays a normal temperature. So also filming down here is just easier. Oh, you can see my cat. I'm also cat sitting for another cat, but I don't know if he'll come in the frame. He's a big boy. But I want to talk about all the books that I have read this week, and this is also a sneak peek, so I have a lot of stuff filmed out through like August 15th or 16th. I have book reviews scheduled starting from yesterday through like the 16th, I think. So we'll talk about the books that I have read this week and a sneak preview for those who are interested in like seeing ahead what book reviews I'm going to have, as well as my reading plans, which are up here. So all the books that I plan on reading, and I have my morning cup of coffee. Actually, it's like coffee number 3, which I don't know why I look so tired, because I did sleep 8 hours last night, but we're making the best of it. So we're going to talk about all the books I've read, and as always, I want to hear what you're reading, how your reading is going. Yeah. So we can just dive right in to the books. I guess I'll go through the ones that I am not going to review first, or that I didn't wind up reading or finishing. So I kind of went crazy at the library. If you saw my last library haul and like live chat, it was kind of excessive. I checked out way too many books, and then if you saw my community post, I crunched up my knee playing basketball, which is just an occupational hazard. So I have way too many books checked out right now, and fortunately, with the knee that I'm trying to rest, I've been able to get a lot done. But there are some books that I usually don't film, so we'll go through the ones that I am not going to review, and also one of them I didn't even wind up reading. These were part of those moments, those little manic episodes you get at like 2 in the morning when you're like, I'm gonna change my whole life, and I'm gonna learn French, and I'm gonna paint my living room, and I'm going to make 17 new friends tomorrow, and then you overcommit your social calendar. So these books were kind of part of those little manic moments that you have. The first was this book about like figuring out what clothes you like to wear. I don't know why I read this whole book. I did, it was interesting. I am a jeans and a t-shirt or shorts and a t-shirt kind of woman. That's what I wear. In the summer when it's really hot, I wear these like crop tops, especially around my house. And when it gets real cold, I put on sweaters. I do have some dresses that I do like wearing, but this was just, I don't know why I read this expecting it to change my personal style. I'm almost 30, I know what I like to wear, but it was interesting to read. The other one was this Smarter Living book. This was also part of a deranged attempt to fix my entire life, which doesn't need fixing, so I don't know why I get in these moods. I didn't even read this, so this is going back to the library. This is the great thing about the library. When you get these books that you just want to page through, or you're not sure if you're going to read, you can just take them out of the library, and when you don't like them, you can just return them to the library. So now we're getting into the stuff that I actually read, and that some of these book reviews have already gone out. Some of them are going to go out. So depending on where we are in the release cycle, because I do film in advance, and when my life is going well, I have all my book reviews scheduled in advance, and then I can do things like schedule book reviews. Like I like my math. I like to do 1 math book a week. So if I read 2 of them in a week, I can schedule them in advance. Stuff like that, so I can kind of space it out. Or also, I know I have different audiences for different types. Like I know some people watch a lot of my stuff, but like some people just watch a lot of my sci-fi stuff, or my manga stuff, or my math stuff. So I don't want to do like 4 manga reviews in a row. Oh, my cat is scratching up the furniture. I don't want to do like 4 manga reviews in a row if I can intersperse it with like math or sci-fi to make sure that the audience that's there for that sort of stuff is also getting content that they like as well. So I do try to like strategically plan it, but it's not that strategic. If all I've read is manga, then that's what you're getting 4 days in a row. But unfortunately, I feel like also this last haul was just getting back in the habit of reading because my life was so busy in the spring and early summer, and now that it's kind of come back down to a normal pace, I feel like I can finally, I feel like step 1 in reading is getting the habit of reading. So now that I've kind of developed this habit back where I'm doing a good job of reading, I feel like I can start being more strategic with my reading, if that makes sense. Like first you have to develop the habit again. If you're out of the habit of reading, just getting the habit back or getting used to reading again is probably the first part. And then you can do things like getting back online with my challenges. Like I've been doing my poetry every single week. I want to get back into reading the Hugo Award winners and finalists. I have a massive Excel spreadsheet with books that my viewers have recommended that I want to read, that I want to get through. So that needs to be done as well. So there's just a lot that I need to get through. Yeah, and now that I feel like I have the habit back because I've been reading consistently for like the last 2 weeks, I feel like I can start approaching those challenges again, which is the important part. So I feel like I've developed the habit back, which that's the hardest part. And remind you, I've been a lifelong reader. All I did was take like a 3 or 4 month break essentially because of everything that was going on in my life, and that it was already a deficit that I was having to come back from. So let's move on with the other books that I have. So the poetry that I read, I already put this book review out, so if you read my poetry I'm reading this week, I did Cry, Smile, Wonder, and Self-Portrait with the Cephalopod, which this one was much better than I anticipated. If you read my review, I am trying to figure out what kind of poetry I like. This was a reread, so I knew I was gonna like this one, and this one was one I pulled because I liked the cover and the title, and I wound up liking it as well. So yeah, I'm very, very impressed with these two. I am, now on this note, I have read one more. I read Water by Rumi, but I haven't filmed the book review because I want to finish reading today Words Like Thunder, which is Anishinaabe prayers. So this is a Native American like poetry collection. And then I can do these as like the poetry that I read this week. So this was like last week's poetry, and I've read this one. I'm gonna read this one. These aren't really too far outside my comfort zone, and they also kind of have a theme. They kind of have a blue theme, but haven't read this one, have read this one, but I have not filmed the book review for this one. Honestly, the book review is just going to be like my general thoughts because I feel like there's people much better qualified to talk about Rumi than me, because I have no formal training in literature at all. But I did like this one, and I am anticipating liking this one. Either way, this one will be good to read. So once I read this one, then I can film this combined book review, just because I feel like I don't have enough to stay on this one. But these were read. I'm gonna move those over here. So I did read this one. And then we have Words Like Thunder. Put that over here. This is, uh-oh. Let me take a cup of coffee, or a sip of coffee. This is another one that the book review did go out. Concrete Siberia, Soviet Landscapes of the Far North. The book review is out there on this one on my channel. This one I really enjoyed, it's about these cities that were built up primarily around like mining or raw resource extraction in northern, well then the Soviet Union, but now Russia, in Siberia. And it was the kind of book that I had had my eye on in the library for the last couple weeks, or actually longer than that, and I knew it was here and I knew it was going to be interesting, but it was mostly just these like photographs, so I wasn't really sure. Sometimes I film books knowing that they're probably not going to get a lot of traction on my channel, but the thing about this channel is sometimes it surprises me what can come out of a book review. First of all, which ones take off or get a little more traction than others sometimes surprises me. But it also, one of the benefits of having a book review channel is the people who comment and the people who leave their own opinions or stories or recommendations under it. That's the real benefit of this YouTube channel for me. That's the real reason why I enjoy it, is the like community aspect, like the community. I have a very small community, but I really do appreciate the people who do leave the comments, especially when I am so small. I feel like first of all, I recognize my loyal commenters, so thank you for that, but also I have time to read every single one of them. So that is, unless you commented between April and June, I'm very sorry. I probably missed your comment and I have a backlog, but I love getting comments. And someone commented on this saying that they were actually an English teacher in this region, which was something I did not expect. So I almost didn't review this book, but I'm so glad that I did. And that's the kind of like positive interactions or interesting stories that come out of posting a book review that, yeah, maybe the video is only going to get 40 or 50 views, but just having that like little tiny connection is worth way more than 10,000 views and meaningless comments. So not that no one's comments are meaningless. Well, maybe some people's are. But for the most part, I get really good quality comments on my videos, and I really appreciate it. But this book was super fun and just interesting to look through. The review for this one is out. The Zupa Grafika, which is who's done this, I think it's a Polish publishing house, and they have a lot of interesting books. I looked at their website, but unfortunately, not only do they not have a lot in my library, they also don't have a lot, because I can order any book from any other library in the state that I live in the US, and very few libraries even in my state have anything by this Zupa Grafika, but they have a lot of interesting like Eastern Bloc, former Soviet Union photography that seems really, really interesting. They also have other stuff from like other brutalist, brutal Britain, brutal Poland, brutal London. So they do have a lot of other stuff like that as well. But this was a super interesting book, and I am glad I read it. This is one of those ones where you go in thinking this could be an interesting read, and it exceeds your expectations. So I liked this one, and if this seems interesting, you can obviously check out my book review on that one. This one, so when I order from a library, they put another library in my state, they can ship it for free to my library to read, which is an amazing benefit and why I don't feel bad paying my taxes every year. But they do put these pieces of papers on the cover that I removed for my book reviews. I put this one back on, so I'm just going to show you the inside cover. I don't know what that explosion noise was, or who knocked something over upstairs. Probably one of my cats. New England Days. This was a black and white photography collection. I didn't know what I was getting into. Sometimes I go on the website where you can order books from other libraries, and I just like type in words and see what books are in the category. So I was looking for New England photography, and this book came up. It was black and white, which I wasn't expecting, but honestly my favorite weren't even like the black and white parts. It was like these still life ones in the back, which I really liked. This book review went out this morning. This is one of those ones that I'm not expecting to get a lot of traction, but I thought it was fun. So if you like New England photography or black and white photography, that could be an interesting one to look at. I do wonder what my cats knocked over upstairs. I think that's where that noise came from. They're being bad. Next is a graphic novel. This book review is scheduled to come out sometime next week. Volume 4 of Ennead. This is a new or like a retelling of Egyptian mythology. It's interesting. It's definitely, so the graphic novel is rated as older teens, which is probably correct, but it's also not too far of a deviation from original Egyptian mythology, because the Egyptian mythology is not very like family friendly. There was a lot of violence in the original stories, and there's a lot of violence in this. There is like a mature version above this, and this is like the censored version, but the library obviously is giving me the censored version. This is another one I had to order from another library. This one was interesting. I feel like I'm sticking around this series mostly for the art style, which is intriguing, and I do like the art style. This one had a lot of flashbacks, but the book review for this will be coming out primarily for people who have watched or are familiar with volumes 1 through 3, obviously, as this is volume 4. And I want to get volume 5. When I'm reading series like this, I don't like to take a big break between volumes unless I'm waiting for one to be published, because otherwise I feel like you start to lose the plot or forget the plot. So we're going to try to get volume 5, which I know has been published, and I know my library has it, or the library that I get this from has it. So I just need to order it and pick it up on time, which has been another failure of mine. Sometimes I place holds on things, and they'll hold it for 7 days, and I won't get to the library in time. That was when I was trying to get back into reading, like a month ago. I would place holds, but then I would not get them in time because I would get caught up in other things, so not good. The next one is another book review that is coming soon, Trades and Crafts in Medieval Manuscripts. When I got this book, this was another one that I ordered from another library in my state. This book was interesting. When I first got it, I was not sure I was going to like it because it focuses on medieval manuscripts, but a lot of the manuscript art is reproduced in black and white, and I was like, I kind of like color reproductions. There are some ones reproduced in color as well. You can see some here. But this book actually wound up being, like the text wound up being very, very interesting, to the point where the art was kind of just supporting it, even though honestly I mostly got it for the medieval art that was included. The text was really good. I felt like the author did a really good job of comprehensively covering everything without getting too far into the weeds on any one topic, and I felt like I learned a lot from this book. There's a ton of interesting content in this book, and I had a great time reading it. So this was one of those books where maybe you go in with an expectation of, oh, this is going to be like an okay read, I'm going to learn some stuff, but I don't know, and it exceeded my expectations. This was easily a 4.5 star read. Highly recommend. It is a little older. It was published in 1990, but I don't think the age should disqualify you from the book. So book review on this one coming next week. That one's already been filmed and scheduled. Manga Guide to Statistics. This is one that I also read and reviewed recently. This one was super fun and actually got a lot more in-depth than I anticipated for a book. I anticipated this to kind of just stick to like mean, median, mode, histograms, stem and leaf charts, but this kind of got into some serious stuff like chi-square distributions and hypothesis testing and like correlation coefficients. So it actually was a lot more intense than I anticipated this book being for having such a cute little cover. It was actually covering some stuff I covered in my senior year of my math degree. So that was very, very interesting, and I was very impressed with the quality of this book, while also keeping like this super fun, cute style. You're gonna get into some actual serious math in this book. So I was highly impressed. My library also has the Manga Guide to linear regression, and I think they have linear regression and calculus, so I'm going to get those as well. Because I was highly impressed with this one, which is the first one I read in this series. Super fun. They keep it accessible throughout, while also covering some higher level topics. So I do have the review of this one coming on, scheduled for Monday for the in-depth review for this one. I've been doing a lot of reading. I'm pretty proud of myself. This is what happens when you hurt your knee. Don't play basketball, guys. That sport just it just eats knees for breakfast. Someone actually commented on my post and said that when he played ice hockey, more of his teammates were injured playing basketball, I guess outside of ice hockey, than playing ice hockey. So that tells you everything you need to know about my favorite sport. The next book I read was The Medieval World, A History of Fashion and Costume. This is volume 2 of this series, so I'm guessing they have a bunch of other time periods included. I placed a hold on this through my library system, expecting this to be a teen book, which would be a little maybe easier or accessible than a book aimed for an general adult reader, but would still be sufficiently interesting enough. And when I got it, it was a kid book, so I was like, well, I don't know if I'm going to read it. I'll page through it. But it did wind up looking like it was going to have enough content. It wasn't just like a picture book or something. So I was like, okay, there's enough content here to maybe make a book review, so I'll just read it. And I was actually highly impressed with this book. So it actually took a global look, and we were looking also at what people were dressing like in the time period that coincided with the medieval period in Europe, in places like Asia and North Africa, and the North and Central and South America. So for that reason, I think it was very, very well done. It was, again, a little bit more simplistic, but I have another book that I'm going to be reading soon, and I think this book set it up. So I read this one, but this is the one I really want to read, Medieval Dress and Fashion. And I think this one is obviously aimed at an adult audience, and it's going to complement or be an expansion of this book. And this book actually was still interesting enough. I mean, it took me like an hour to read through everything, and there were some minor critiques I had, but the book review for this is scheduled and coming out. And I did wind up enjoying this more than I thought. I have another cup of coffee. This is in my things I want to read coming up, so that Medieval Dress and Fashion, which again will just be an expansion of this. Put this back up here. This book review already came out. The Unfinished Game, Pascal Fermat, the 17th Century Letter That Made the World Modern. This is about the birth of probability from a letter. A lot of probability and statistics stems from gambling, go figure. And gamblers wanting to know how they could get an edge so they could win money. It's the same thing that people want to know today. How can they win money when they're at the casino? Spoiler, you really don't long term. You don't really win money at the casino. There's a great quote in this book where it says, casinos don't gamble, they leave that to their customers, which I think is the best quote in the whole book. The casinos have mathematics on their side, but there was a letter exchange between two mathematicians, Pascal and Fermat, in the 17th century, where they were discussing how to divide the winnings of a dice game that had been interrupted where one player was ahead of the other. So the letter is reproduced in this book, or there's like parts taken out, and then the author explains the birth of probability and how it came from this letter. So it was very interesting. We also have another interesting character, if you're familiar with math history, Cardano. He's a very colorful individual, and he's come up in several other books that I've read, and I would love to get my hands on like a biography specifically on him, because he seems to have led a very colorful life, and he seems to pop up again and again. But this was pretty easy. I was supposed to be reading another math book, which I started, but this one was just super easy and fast to read. So I read this one first, which I wasn't supposed to, but I'll get into that later. So The Unfinished Game. My stack of books over here is kind of precarious. I'll take another sip of coffee. Finally, a photography book that I pulled because it looked interesting. Daido Tokyo. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is a photography collection of a neighborhood in Tokyo that I flipped through. It was very interesting. One of the things in this book is, as you can see from the two-tone side, there's a color photography and a black and white photography. And I don't know if I've ever seen Tokyo photographed in black and white. So I do have this book review filmed and published. So this one will be going out next week as well, so you can see further in depth. Honestly, that's a lot of books. That's everything I read in like the last little over a week or so. So I've been making really good progress. I read a lot of that recently, and I filmed a lot of those book reviews that from the books I just showed. I filmed a lot of those book reviews yesterday. So I have stuff filmed through mid-August. Now we'll talk about what my plans are in an ideal world. In an ideal world, I can start running on my knee tomorrow, and I never read again. No, I'm kidding. I love reading. In an ideal world, though, I will get through Words Like Thunder, which is Anishinaabe poetry, and then I can, with the Rumi one that I already read, I can film like my poetry for the week and talk about that one. This one is over 100 pages, and the poems do seem a little thicker, but I should be able to get through this in a little bit. Okay. Now we'll get into, I have a couple books like this that are very interesting, but require me to sit down with a pen and paper when I'm reading it to take proper notes. And so these are a lot more slow going. I wish, or, something I've noticed is when I'm going to film a book review, I need to take notes on some types of books, and some types of books are easier to review without or with fewer notes than others. But books like this, which are very, I feel like a little more academic, this isn't very academic, but a little academic or has a lot of content, I need to sit down with like a pen and paper when I'm reading, so reading becomes like a thing I have to do. So a book like this is harder for me to read if I'm going to review it when I'm like waiting in a doctor's appointment or when I'm sitting in bed at the end of the day, because I am not gonna have, or I don't like taking notes in bed, and it just starts to get kind of messy and confusing. So this one has been slower going, and I am gonna split the review into multiple parts, but I have been reading this one, The Monastic World. It's one of the books that when I want to reach for something when I'm sitting in bed, or when I'm looking for wanting to read something, I tend to reach for books that require less note taking, and I need to stop doing that as well. Something you're going to note too is, for whatever reason, this year has been very nonfiction heavy. I genuinely want to read this book, and I just have not reached for it. A Letter from the Lonesome Shore. It's the second book in this series, and I loved the first one, and I'm sure if I read this one, I'm going to love it as well. I just need to reach for it. I just renewed it because it was due back at the library, so I need to read it. It is thick, but I do remember from the first one it was thick, but it read really fast. But the first one was written in letter format, and it looks like this one is letter format too, so it does read pretty quickly. I loved the first one. If I remember correctly, I thought it was rated lower on Goodreads than I would have rated it. What is this? Oh, that's my checkout receipt. I was like, why is there a piece of paper in there? So I do need to read it. I don't know why I have been reaching. I definitely go through like ebbs and flows. So in theory, I want to read a lot more fiction. But in practice, I have just been reaching for nonfiction, as you can see from my reading. But that will probably flip at some point because it always does. So I do want to read this. I promise. I want to read it. I just never reach for it. Same with this one. I want to read it, but I just haven't been reaching for it. The Teller of Small Fortunes. And I'm sure with a lot of this fiction too, I feel like I'm in the mood where once I pick it up, it's enjoyable. So I just need to pick it up. And this one isn't as long, it doesn't look like. I'm in 200, almost 300 pages. But I'm sure I'm going to love it as soon as I pick it up. I just need to pick it up. So I don't know what I'm waiting on. These two also have really pretty covers, I feel like. The final one, I'm actually almost done with it. I've just been putting it off. How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. So I have the physical book, but I've also been listening to the audiobook of this, and I'm like mostly done. I want to say I have like 3 hours left in the audiobook, so I have to figure out where I am in the physical book again. I don't know why I checked this out of the library. Unfortunately, I have to read another book called like How to... Not the Final Girl Support Group. He wrote another one that came out that is actually what I'm supposed to be reading for book club, which I haven't read yet. I don't know why I checked this out. It's clearly labeled horror. It is horror. It talks about a haunted house and is way too spooky for me. So I don't know why I got this. This is way too gory. I don't know. It's actually intriguing and it is well written. And there were moments that were like laugh out loud funny. But I feel like a lot of this could be avoided if the two people just walked away from the house. Like, it's the kind of shenanigans these people are going into. There were so many moments where I would have made different decisions, but ultimately this whole thing was just really, it wasn't so spooky that it started interrupting like my sleep or anything, because the premise of this book is like a haunted puppet or like an evil puppet. I don't have any puppets in my house, so I don't have this problem with haunted puppets because I don't have puppets in my house. And if a puppet started acting haunted, you best believe I would be calling someone to take care of that like right away. So I don't really know. So that part wasn't scary. I wasn't like personally scared because I did not feel like my life was in danger. I was like vacuuming my basement while listening to this audiobook. I didn't feel scared at all down there in the dark vacuuming because I don't have haunted puppets in my house. But these people, it just got very violent, and we oscillated between like funny moments to frustrating moments to really spooky, scary moments, like really fast. And everything was just weird and crazy, and I just have a little bit left to finish this book, and I need to push through and finish it, but I have been holding off. I have considered like maybe DNFing it, but I think the scariest part's done, I think. And I think I've kind of solved some other little outstanding mystery pieces, like mentally in my head, but I need to, I just need to finish it. And I should probably just, like power through. It's not so scary because it affects my personal life and I don't want to read it because then I start mentally imagining things. It's scary because it's kind of gory. I do think like your average reader would be able to handle this. I don't think it's unnecessarily scary. I think and it has a good balance of humor and horror, but I'm very sensitive to horror, so I don't really know why. It's because it looked entertaining and it looked well written, and it is entertaining and well written. And I'm also now I'm not looking forward to reading the other one. Wayward Girls, something Wayward Girls. That's the book club book. My sisters were actually visiting, or well, one of my sisters was visiting recently, and she said that there was like a couple like kind of gory-ish parts, but it wasn't too bad. So I'm hoping maybe this one was a little scarier. I don't know. I do think Grady Hendrix is a good writer. I did like it. It's not for me. So this one's almost done, and I've just been holding out. So I just need to finish it so I can do the review on it. Or maybe if I really choose not to finish it, if I really just can't force myself, I will just do a review up to the point I stopped reading, because I'm well over the halfway mark and I feel like I've read enough to have an opinion. But I do think he is a good writer. So no shade to the writer. This is just my personal preference. And me picking books out of the library that I had no business picking out of the library. I don't know what I was doing. Okay, this is my apology to my one viewer who was excited to see me read this, and then I completely dropped the ball and read The Unfinished Game instead. Yes. The difference is, as you can see, this is E, the story of a number. The problem between this and this is this one was easy for me to just read while sitting in bed. And this one, as you can already see, I have been taking notes on it. So this one is one that I feel like I have to sit and intentionally read in a way that this one I did not. But I need to get back to this one because I was enjoying it. It's just a little bit more intense in the reading of it. So I have the math book for this week, which was The Unfinished Game, that was published and sent out. Manga Guide to Statistics, that's published for next Monday. So my goal is the Monday following that, this will be out and reviewed. So I do have a timeline for finishing E, the story of a number. And apologies to the viewer who has been waiting for me to finish this. And of course, the final one is this Medieval Dress and Fashion, which should be fun. It seems like a really good mix of text and art, but with these art books, they take a deceptively long time to read because you want to like carefully look at all the pictures and connect it to what you're reading in the text. So I do think this is going to take a little bit longer for me to read than maybe the colorful pictures would indicate. It does look really good. It looks really fun. Lots of art, which is my favorite. So I do need to get this done. So my goal, if I can finish this week, and have this film to go out in 2 Mondays, get another medieval book out because people seem to like medieval history. I have viewers who enjoy the medieval history, so if I get Dressed in Fashion out this week as well, that should be doable. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish both of these this week. That would probably be very impressive. What I need to stop doing is being on my phone. So I scroll way too much on my phone, and I need to get off it, and I think that's what I need to do. I think I can get through both of these if I got off my phone and stopped having insane screen times every single day. So if I can get through both of these, that's doable if I don't waste time on my phone. It's not doable if I don't waste time on my phone. It's not doable if I do waste time on my phone, I should say. But they're so pretty, so I do want to read these. So these coming up. And I want to get through part 1 of this one. This one is just taking me longer because I'm taking notes throughout it. So I think realistically setting goals to not have read and reviewed the whole thing, but I am going to review it in chunks. So getting the first chunk done should be a doable goal. And then getting this I could probably have done today if I read it this afternoon. It's supposed to be really hot again today, I think. So I'll just want to stay inside. I want to take a walk because I can finally walk normally and it doesn't hurt to walk anymore. So I want to take a walk this afternoon or this morning before it gets too hot. But then I can come back and I can finish this and do a little bit more book review filming, which would be nice. My goal, like I said, now that I feel like I'm back in the habit of reading, which is half the battle, hold on. Now I can be a little bit more targeted. It really is the habit. When people say they want to start reading or they haven't read, especially people who haven't read in many, many years, it's the habit of reading and the focus required to maintain reading is really the hardest part to develop. And I think it screens. That's my one I don't want to say old person because my statistics seem to indicate I have a lot of older viewers. But maybe one of my unpopular opinions, screens aren't good for anybody. They aren't, and I think they do interfere with your ability to maintain focus when reading a book, 100%. And I think there's very few people in the modern world who are truly free of a screen or phone addiction. And one of the hardest things is getting back in the habit because it's a lot harder to pick up a book than to pick up a phone and scroll. So now that I feel like I've developed the habit of reading again, which is the most important part, I feel like I can, again, go back, like I was saying, to those targeted readings to getting back to my reading challenges. I am definitely not going to hit this stretch goal of 250 books. I don't even know if I'm going to hit 150 books this year, which is fine. I'm not going to try to push myself to hit 150 books this year if I'm not going to be able to get to it. I think I'm at 49 for the year, which honestly, if you read 49 books in a year, that's already very, very impressive. The only reason I've had a surge recently is because I've been alternating between sitting on the couch and working out the knee. So when I sit on the couch, I have been reading. I also do backwards walking, which helps my knee feel better, and then I read, but I have to be careful not to bump into my furniture. Haha, it's 90 Fahrenheit, which is, I don't know Celsius off the top of my head, 30s, if you're in the Celsius area. So the problem is, I actually kind of like the heat. I don't mind the heat. the upstairs part of my house gets quite warm, and that gets really irritating. And that's where I was filming, but like just filming in a room that's sitting at 89, 90 degrees Fahrenheit is quite unpleasant, even for people who like the heat. So I sit downstairs where it's mid 70s, and that's without an air conditioning unit. I do have a window unit, but the thing is it just drives up the electricity cost. And if I can just like, okay, my unpopular opinion is that I live in an area of the United States that has temperature fluctuations, and I don't believe that you should just like, it's a little unrealistic to expect your house to be like 72 degrees year round. Like the temperature outside does fluctuate. I'm not saying everyone has to live in a 9-degree house. That's kind of insane. I don't go upstairs during the day because it's too hot, but like allowing a little bit of temperature fluctuation in your house isn't the end of the world. And I'm okay with dealing with like low 60s in the winter to upper 70s in the summer is an acceptable temperature fluctuation for me. And I'll just dress accordingly inside my house, as opposed to paying it. Now, if it gets too hot, I will plug the window unit in and use air conditioning, because sometimes air conditioning is worth it. But I don't run it like at all times to keep my house at the same temperature, because it's just gonna be hot outside. But when it's really hot in the afternoon, I don't wanna go on a walk then. It's just gonna be really hot. So when it's hot, I just try to stay inside, drink a lot of water, stay in the shade. I mowed my lawn at like 8 a.m. this morning, which I'm not a bad neighbor. I have one of the like non-motorized, like you just push it and it goes and it cuts. 90 is pretty hot. We also get quite cold. We'll have like so I live in like the Midwest United States, and it will get down to like where your high for the day is like 9 or 10 Fahrenheit, which is well below freezing. So we do have a wide temperature range. The nice thing with cold though is you can always put more layers on. And layering really is key. I love it when it's gonna get cold in Florida or like Texas, and they have to remind people that you have to dress in layers. You can't just wear like a little crop top and then put a winter coat over top. Like that doesn't quite work. Understandably, those people are not used to that kind of weather, so I understand why the news has to remind people of that. But it is just kind of funny to see. That being said, I would probably perish if I lived in Florida year round. That state is too hot for my liking, way too hot, and it's humid. You feel like you can't breathe in that state. Way too warm. Way too warm. All right, I think I've reviewed all the books I need to, so I will wrap this live stream up. Look forward to all of my reviews coming out. Let me know what you're reading. I will have this video saved so you can watch it after the fact. But yeah, thank you for hanging out with me this morning and reviewing all the books that I've read. I hope to see some of you guys in future videos, future lives. When I return all these books to the library, I will do another library haul and life chat, which will be super fun. That's kind of one of my motivations for getting all of this read. So hopefully I can get that taken care of soon. I have some books due back at the library this week, so I'm going to have to go back at least once this week. Which will be fun. The library is kind of a dangerous place for me because I start wandering around and then my one book turns into 15 books. So I'm maximizing my tax dollar, but I need to stay away from it when I have this many books to read. So I need to finish some books. I'll get the books finished up, and then I'll do another live this week, probably later this week or maybe next weekend with the books that I have checked out of the library, and hopefully I'm back in the reading groove, and I will just have regular book reviews scheduled from now until the end of the year. And I can keep this habit back up. So thank you for tuning in, everyone. I hope you go and watch some of my recent videos and leave some comments on my recent videos. Thank you so much for stopping in, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.